Boomers love to say that a real American should wake up at 6 a.m., drink a strong cup of coffee, and start the day with hard work. You know, the old school discipline, stability, and that whole American dream bullshit. But let me tell you something. None of that applies when you wake up in your own damn house and it feels like you're inside a goddamn freezer. I opened my eyes and the first thing I felt was cold. A nasty, bone-chilling am I sleeping in a goddamn morgue? Kind of cold. The kind that instantly makes you question all your life choices leading up to this moment. I reach for the light switch. Nothing. All right. Maybe the power's out. I swung my legs over the bed and instantly regretted it. The floor was so cold, it felt like I'd just stepped onto a frozen steak at the grocery store. First thought, okay, maybe it's just a small outage. Second thought, wait, why the hell is it so quiet? I stumbled into the bathroom, turned on the faucet. The pipes groaned, wheezed like a dying smoker. And then, nothing. Not a damn drop. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some accident. This was deliberate. I grabbed my phone, stomped over to the window, and what I saw made my blood boil. My neighbors? They had power. Their chimneys, steaming like a cozy Christmas postcard. One guy was walking his dog outside in a fucking bathrobe, holding a steaming cup of coffee. They weren't freezing their asses off. They weren't standing barefoot on a floor cold enough to castrate a polar bear. It was just me. And that's the moment you get that gut punch realization. Someone out there is screwing with you. On purpose. I took a deep breath. Exhaled. All right, someone wants a fight? Fine. Let's give them one. I threw on a hoodie, shoved my feet into boots, grabbed my phone, and marched straight to the most soul-sucking place in this entire neighborhood, the HOA office. If you've ever dealt with one of these little dictatorships, you know what I'm talking about. No one votes for them, but they have absolute power. They can randomly decide that you can't park in your own driveway because it violates the aesthetic of the neighborhood, or fine you because your Christmas lights are too festive. But cutting off someone's power, water, and heat, that was a new level of psychotic. I stormed into their office. The place smelled like old paper, cheap coffee, and unchecked authority. Behind the front desk sat some old battle axe, the kind of woman who looks like she was born to ruin people's lives just for fun. She glanced up at me, not even trying to hide her smug little smirk. "Can I help you?" I stared at her. "Yeah, you can turn my goddamn power back on." She blinked. "Oh, really? Is something turned off?" I leaned over the counter. "Listen, I know you know what's going on. Just tell me who's in charge of this bullshit." She took her sweet-ass time folding her hands in front of her, like she had all the time in the world, and finally said, "You'll have to speak with the chairman." "Perfect. Where is he?" Her lips curled like she had just smelled something awful. "He's busy." I let out a sharp breath. "Oh yeah? That's crazy because guess what? I'm busy too. Busy freezing my ass off in my own house, so take me to him, now." She huffed like I'd just asked her to lick the floor, but finally stood up. "Follow me." I knew I was about to walk into a room with some asshole who thought he was the smartest guy here. But what I didn't know yet was that this was personal. The hallway smelled like mildew, old coffee, and failed dreams, the kind of place where you could feel bureaucracy rotting in the walls. The carpet was some faded shade of beige, probably last cleaned when Nixon was still in office. The woman leading me to the chairman walked like she was personally offended by my existence, her heels clicking with the rhythm of someone who enjoyed making people miserable. We stopped in front of a cheap wooden door with a brass nameplate that read, "Walter Briggs, HOA Chairman." Great, a Walter. I've met a lot of Walters in my life. None of them were good people. Walters were always the ones who wrote people up at work for taking an extra 5-minute break or called the cops because your lawn was 2 inches too high. A Walter was the kind of guy who'd fine you for sneezing too loud in your own house. The old bat knocked once and didn't wait for a reply before pushing the door open. "Mr. Briggs, one of the homeowners wants to speak with you about his utilities." Wants? That was a nice way of putting it. Briggs looked up from a thick stack of papers, the kind that only existed to make someone's life worse. He was exactly what I expected. Overweight, sweating under an ill-fitting suit, balding but still slicking back whatever hair he had left. The guy probably woke up every morning excited to ruin someone's day. "Ah, Mr. Rivers, is it?" I didn't answer. I just sat down without being invited. He glanced at the receptionist like he expected her to remove me, but when she just awkwardly hovered, he sighed and folded his hands over his gut. "I assume you're here about your, situation? You mean the fact that you cut off my power, water, and heat in the middle of winter?" He smiled in that, "I'm pretending to be polite, but actually I hate you way that HOA guys have perfected over the years." "Well, I wouldn't put it quite like that." "Oh no? Then how would you put it?" He leaned back in his chair, looking way too comfortable for someone who had just effectively declared war on me. "You see, Mr. Rivers, our homeowners association has strict policies regarding community maintenance fees, and, well, you haven't paid any." "Because I'm not in the HOA." His smile didn't budge. "Exactly." For a moment I thought maybe I had a stroke. Maybe I misheard him. "Hold on. So you're saying that because I'm not part of your little club, you decided to shut off my utilities?" "It's simple, really," he said, flipping a page like he was reading me my rights. "If you're not contributing to the community, why should the community provide services to you?" I stared at him. "You do realize that the power company and water department don't give a damn about your HOA rules, right? I pay my bills directly to them." He waved a pudgy hand. "Oh, of course, but the infrastructure, that's maintained by the HOA." I let out a sharp laugh. "So let me get this straight. You think you have the right to control basic utilities for a house you don't even own just because it's inside some invisible line you made up?" His fake politeness cracked for just a second. "Look, Mr. Rivers, we sent multiple notices inviting you to join the HOA. You ignored them. That's your choice. But actions have consequences." Ah, there it was, that smug, power-tripping tone. The one that said, "I enjoy making your life miserable and there's nothing you can do about it." It was the same tone I'd heard from corrupt cops, dirty officials, and power-hungry bureaucrats. The kind of people who thought a clipboard and a title made them gods. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "The simplest solution is to sign the HOA agreement, pay the membership fee, and all this inconvenience goes away." I sat there for a long moment, staring at him, my fingers curled into fists under the table. "That sounds a lot like extortion, Walter." His face twitched. "Excuse me?" "Extortion. You know, like when the mob tells a business owner, 'Hey, nice store you got here. Shame if something happened to it.'" His cheeks flushed red. "That is not—" "Oh, but it is. You cut off my basic needs, then demand money to turn them back on. That's literally extortion." His voice got lower, more controlled. "You can call it whatever you want, but legally, you don't have a leg to stand on." I tilted my head. "Is that so?" He smirked, thinking he'd won. "Yes, Mr. Rivers, that is so. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Please let us know when you've come to your senses." I stood up, smoothing out my jacket. "You know what, Walter? You're right." He blinked. "I am?" "Yeah, Legally, I don't have a leg to stand on. I picked up one of his expensive pens from the desk, twirled it between my fingers. Good thing the law has never been my only option. I flicked the pen back onto his desk and walked out, leaving him staring after me with his mouth slightly open. He thought this was over. He thought I'd just roll over and take it. But what Walter didn't know, what no one in that office knew, was that I wasn't just some average suburban homeowner. I was trained for situations exactly like this, and I was about to burn their entire operation to the ground. I walked out of that office with one thought running through my head. These people really have no idea who they just screwed with. Walter Briggs sat there, all smug and self-important, thinking he had me backed into a corner, thinking I'd either roll over and pay their extortion fee or freeze to death in my own home. But here's the thing, I don't lose. I don't just sit back and take it when some power-hungry HOA clown decides to flex his fake authority over me. No, that's not how I operate. I stepped outside, letting the cold air slap me in the face, and pulled out my phone. Time to get to work. First call. The power company. I gave them my account number, explained that my power had been cut off, and asked them to check their records. The woman on the other end clicked away on her keyboard for a minute before coming back with, "Sir, according to our system, your service is active. We have no reported outages in your area." That's what I thought. "Then tell me this," I said, my voice sharp as a knife. "If my service is active, why the hell am I sitting in the dark?" There was a pause. "Hold on, let me check something." I waited, watching my breath fog up in the air. "Sir, it looks like there was an external disconnection request filed under your address. Not by us, though. It was done manually." I clenched my jaw so hard it could crack a walnut. "Who filed that request?" Another pause, then she hesitated. "It came from your HOA, sir." "Of course it did." "Thanks for your time," I said, hanging up before she could respond. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I'd been in situations far worse than this. Situations where people's lives were on the line. This was just a bunch of greedy little tyrants trying to shake me down for cash. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have guessed, is that I don't just fight back. I dismantle. I pulled up another number and made the second call. "Hey, it's me." Well, a familiar voice answered. "Didn't think I'd hear from you so soon. What's up?" "I need you to dig into a certain HOA. Get me everything, financial records, complaints, lawsuits, anything that smells like corruption." "Damn, man, what kind of trouble did you get yourself into this time?" "Not trouble," I said, a slow smirk creeping onto my face. "Just an opportunity to teach some people a lesson." The guy on the other end chuckled. "All right, give me a few hours. I'll send you what I find." I hung up and walked back to my house, stepping inside the freezing air like a soldier stepping onto a battlefield. Briggs thought he could bury me in bureaucracy. Thought I'd give up and just hand over my money to make the problem go away. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had been trained to deal with situations exactly like this. I don't just fight fire with fire. I burn the whole goddamn system down. And by the time I was done, Briggs and his little empire wouldn't just be exposed. They'd be finished. The thing about people like Walter Briggs is that they never see it coming. They think they're untouchable. They think because they have a clipboard and a cheap suit, they can play God with people's lives. But power like that, it's an illusion. And I was about to rip the curtain down. I spent the next few hours digging, calling, connecting dots. And oh boy, did I find some interesting shit. For starters, this little wannabe dictatorship of an HOA. It was running a full-scale racketeering operation. They had been slapping fake fines on homeowners for years, collecting maintenance fees for work that never got done, and, get this, forcefully foreclosing on people's homes when they couldn't pay up. Yeah, straight up organized crime disguised as suburban bureaucracy. And guess who was at the center of it all? Our buddy Walter. Now, I don't know if Walter was just plain stupid or had been riding this gravy train for so long that he thought nobody would ever check. But the financial records? Sloppy as hell. Missing funds, payments rerouted through shell accounts, shady deals with local contractors. It was a goddamn goldmine of corruption. So I made my next move. I forwarded every last piece of dirt to some friends of mine. Friends who don't appreciate financial crimes, especially when they involve screwing over homeowners. Then, just for fun, I sent everything to a few journalists. The kind who love a good suburban corruption scandal. And then I waited. Now, I'm not a superstitious man, but I swear to you, the moment I took my first sip of coffee the next morning, the chaos started. First came the emails, angry homeowners demanding answers. Then came the phone calls. Then the news vans started showing up, and then the real fun began. I was sitting on my porch, enjoying my coffee, when I saw the black SUVs roll in. Yeah, federal agents. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is funnier than watching a grown man go from "I'm untouchable" to "oh my God, my life is over" in real time. I could see Walter through his office window, face pale as a ghost, hands shaking as he tried to make calls that nobody was picking up. He knew. He knew he was done. A few minutes later, the agents walked him out in cuffs. The news crews swarmed, cameras flashing, reporters yelling questions. Walter. He looked like a man who just realized he bet his entire life savings on a losing horse. I waited until he was just close enough to hear me. Then I raised my coffee cup and said, loud and clear, "Hey, Walter, maybe next time don't cut off the power to the wrong house." His eyes snapped to mine, pure hatred burning behind them. But it didn't matter. He was going away for a long, long time. The best part? The HOA collapsed within days. The homeowners, they got every stolen dollar back, and me? Well, let's just say my house never had power problems again. The lesson here? Power is a funny thing. Some people think if they have a little bit of it, they can do whatever they want. They think they can bully, manipulate, and squeeze people dry just because they have the right title, the right paperwork, or the right connections. But here's the truth. No one is untouchable. You see, the Walters of the world, they rely on fear. They expect you to be too scared, too tired, or too damn busy to fight back. And most of the time they're right. But every once in a while they mess with the wrong person. And when that happens, well, let's just say karma has a hell of a sense of humor. So if you ever find yourself dealing with the Walter, remember this. They only win if you let them. And me, I don't let anyone win.